The chandeliers blazed like frozen fire above the marble floor, scattering light across gowns worth more than a year's rent. At the Hamilton Museum's Spring Gala, New York City's elite laughed, toasted, and pretended charity and luxury were the same thing. In the crowd, no one noticed the young server gliding between tables. Not really. Her name was Ava Johnson, 23, in black uniform and white apron, invisible the way servers always are. She balanced a tray with the calm precision of someone who's worked 3 jobs since high school. Only one thing set her apart: a silver necklace catching the light against her dark skin, a crescent moon intertwined with a compass rose, weathered and old, yet impossibly beautiful. Then, a woman's voice sliced through the music. Isn't it inappropriate for the help to wear jewelry, especially something so ostentatious? Heads turned. Whispers rippled. Ava froze, her hand instinctively reaching for the necklace, the only thing she owned from a past she couldn't remember. And then everything stopped. Across the ballroom, Eleanor Harris, 81, banking legend and philanthropist, stared at Ava as if she'd seen a ghost. Her champagne glass slipped, shattering on the marble. Her face drained of color. Her trembling lips formed silent words. Victoria? The music died. The crowd waited. What secret could a single object unlock? And why did this necklace just shatter a billionaire's composure before 500 witnesses? 3 days earlier, Ava's world was smaller. A cramped Brooklyn apartment, peeling paint, a window that never quite shut but let in just enough city noise to remind her she was still alive. 482 square feet of independence. Nursing textbooks cluttered every surface, anatomy, pharmacology, patient care, each one a rung on the ladder out of survival mode. Finals were 2 weeks away. Sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. On her makeshift desk sat a worn manila folder, her entire history. Inside, the same documents she'd read 1,000 times. Birth certificate, baby girl Johnson, ward of the state. Date found, June 15, 2002. Location, Brightview Medical Center, New York City. A single photograph rested on top, the necklace. Pinned to it, a note written years ago by Judith Brown, the foster mother who'd loved her like family before cancer took her 7 years earlier. This was pinned to your blanket when they found you. Keep it safe. Ava traced the compass rose with her fingertip. For points, north, south, east, west, and beneath them, engraved in tiny script. May 29, 2002, 2 weeks before she was found. Her roommate, Tessa Taylor, appeared in the doorway, half awake, clutching instant coffee. "You're doing it again," she said softly. "Doing what?" Ava didn't look up, staring at that necklace like it's going to start talking. Ava smiled faintly. "It means something, Tess. Look at this engraving. Custom work, expensive. Someone cared enough to have this made." Tessa shrugged. "Maybe your birth mom was rich or running from something." Ava closed the folder. Either way, finals won't pass themselves. But she didn't take the necklace off. She never had. Not for school, not for work, not even for hospital clinicals. It was part of her. 2 days earlier, the Office of Prestige Events catering smelled like stress and burnt coffee. Greg Walker, her supervisor, mid-50s, 3 divorces, and a heart soft enough to pretend he didn't care too much, slid a file across his cluttered desk. "Big event tomorrow night. Hamilton Museum. Eleanor Harris is making a $500 million announcement. We need our best staff. Double pay, good tips, could cover your rent for a month." Ava nodded, already calculating. Books, tuition, overdue electricity, all covered. "Professional attire only," Greg continued. "No jewelry except simple studs. These people notice everything. One complaint, we lose the contract." Ava's hand drifted to the necklace. Greg's eyes hardened. "No exceptions, Ava." She nodded, but her fingers stayed wrapped around the silver crescent. Tomorrow wouldn't be different. She'd worn it every day for 21 years. Across Manhattan that same night, in a 15,000 square foot estate carved from grief and history, Eleanor Harris sat in her private study, surrounded by lawyers and financial advisors. Tomorrow she'd announce a $500 million donation to children's charities, the legacy of a lifetime. But her gaze kept drifting to the portrait above the fireplace. A laughing young woman with auburn hair and a silver crescent moon necklace. Victoria Harris, 1980 to 2002. Her daughter. Her heart. 7 months pregnant the night she died. Eleanor touched the matching brooch pinned to her lapel. The same design, the same date engraved beneath. May 29th, 2002. The trip to Florence where they were supposed to collect both pieces never happened. The car accident did. Victoria was declared brain dead by morning. The baby didn't survive the emergency C-section, or so they told her. For 23 years, the necklace was missing, just like her granddaughter. Now, tomorrow, she'd stand before New York's elite and talk about hope, while pretending her heart wasn't still buried beside her daughter. 2 women, 2 lives, 1 lost object. And tomorrow night, fate would force them into the same room, and nothing would ever be the same again. Silence clung to the ballroom like fog after the glass shattered. 500 of New York City's most powerful watched Eleanor Harris stare at a server no one had noticed until now. Eleanor stepped forward, voice barely above a whisper, yet somehow carrying across the marble. "Where did you get that necklace?" Ava Johnson's heartbeat thundered. Every eye pressed in, every judgment she knew too well arriving right on schedule. "It's mine," she said, steadying her breath. "I've had it since I was a baby." "That's impossible." Eleanor's hand trembled. "I commissioned that necklace." "There's only one." The crowd rustled, stolen hanging unsaid in the air. A woman in a perfectly tailored dress glided in, smile sharp as crystal. Carolyn Davis, Eleanor's late nephew's widow, an expert in concern that always felt rehearsed. "Mother, perhaps we should discuss this privately," Carolyn purred. "I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation." Eleanor didn't look at her. She looked at the necklace. At the date Ava already knew by heart. "May I?" she asked. Ava wanted to run. From the stairs, from the murmurs, from the feeling that the ground beneath her life was cracking. But in Eleanor's eyes, she didn't see accusation. She saw grief, ancient and bottomless. Ava nodded. Eleanor's fingertips traced the silver, turned the pendant, found the tiny engraving. She inhaled like someone breaking through water after a long, dark dive. May 29th, 2002. Her knees buckled. Patrick Lewis, Eleanor's chief of staff, caught her before the marble did. The room exhaled, then swarmed, then froze again as security ushered them toward a side door. The gala's music crept back in, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. It had. 20 minutes later, private room, Hamilton Museum. Ava sat opposite Eleanor. Patrick stood like a sentry. 2 others joined them. Detective Raymond Scott, 62, ex-NYPD, with a file cabinet for a memory, and Dr. Miriam Anderson, a family reunification attorney whose calm could cut through storms. Eleanor spoke first, voice steadying by force. "I'm not pressing charges. I only want to understand how you have my daughter's necklace." Ava's fingers tightened on her knees. "I was found outside Brightview Medical Center as an infant, June 15th, 2002. The necklace was pinned to my blanket. That's all I know." Eleanor went still, as if another clock inside her had stopped. Detective Scott's tone softened. "Mrs. Harris's daughter, Victoria Harris, died at Brightview on June 12, 2002. Emergency delivery. Records say the baby didn't survive." The words hung like cold steel. Dr. Anderson leaned in. "Ms. Johnson, do you have your papers?" Ava carried them everywhere. She slid the worn folder across. No parents listed. Generic certificate. The photo of the necklace. The note from Judith Brown. Eleanor unclasped the compass rose brooch from her lapel and set it beside the pendant. Identical metalwork. Identical patina. The same artisan's maker's mark underneath. There was no world in which these 2 pieces weren't twins. Eleanor's voice cracked and reforged in one breath. "Victoria was 7 months pregnant. They told me her baby didn't survive. They never let me see her." Detective Scott cleared his throat. "We need DNA. Tonight." Ava swallowed. "Are you saying I might be?" I'm saying we test, Eleanor said, meeting her eyes. Right now. 4 hours later, overnight lab, Midtown. Swabs, labels, chain of custody forms stacked like dominoes of truth. The fee for rush processing was more than Ava made in a month. Eleanor didn't blink when she paid it. While they waited, Detective Scott opened 2 decades of digital dust. Brightview's records from the week Victoria died. June 12, 2002. Victoria Harris admitted 11:47 p.m. passenger side collision. Severe head trauma. Emergency C-section at 1:23 a.m. official record. Female infant delivered still. 1:51 a.m. Mother deceased at 2:04 a.m. Eleanor closed her eyes. She had lived those minutes for 23 years. Detective Scott scrolled. June 15, 2002. Infant female found by maintenance employee Lewis Washington near ER entrance, approximately 3 to 4 days old. Healthy. One distinctive feature. He stopped. Small strawberry-shaped birthmark, left shoulder blade. Ava lifted trembling fingers to her collarbone. I have that birthmark. Dr. Anderson's voice gentled even more. Would you mind? Ava turned. Lower the collar. A small reddish mark, like a heart someone forgot to finish drawing. Eleanor made a sound no one had ever heard from her, a sound of sorrow and recognition braided into one. Victoria had the same mark. Same place. It runs in our family. Patrick stared at the screen, jaw tight. If the baby lived, why record her stillborn? Dr. Anderson's gaze sharpened. Catastrophic error or deliberate fraud. The room shifted. Eleanor's grief found a backbone of steel. Find the people in that room. The surgeon, the attending who signed the stillbirth certificate, the administrator. Find everyone. Next morning, Eleanor's study. The lab's secure email ping would come any moment. The waiting was an iron weight. To keep from drowning in it, Detective Scott kept digging. Names surfaced. Dr. Alan Mercer, primary surgeon, retired. Linda Hill, surgical nurse, retired. Dr. Paul Rickman, anesthesiologist, deceased, 2007. Dr. Gerald King, attending who signed the stillbirth certificate, lost license, 2005. Dr. Philip Adams, Brightview administrator, in 2002, Miami address. Patrick connected other dots. Financials from 2002 show multiple large cash withdrawals from Thomas Davis, the nephew who ran Harris Industries after Victoria died. Totals: $850,000 across May and June. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. Carolyn Davis had married Thomas later, then slid into his chair after his death. Carolyn's smile had always been flawless. Suddenly it felt like a mask. Before the thought could harden, a phone buzzed on the table. The lab. Everyone leaned in. Dr. Anderson opened the message, breath steady, hands precise. She didn't read it yet. She looked up first, and in that half-second of human pause, the entire room forgot how to breathe. This is it, she said softly. Are you ready? Ava's throat tightened. Eleanor reached across the space between them, palm up. Ava set her hand in it. Dr. Anderson clicked the attachment. The text populated. The result line was there, waiting. The room felt utterly still. Only the quiet hum of Eleanor's computer filled the space as Dr. Miriam Anderson began to read aloud. Probability of biological relationship between Eleanor Harris and Ava Johnson. Her voice caught for just a moment before the words dropped like thunder. 99.97%. The silence that followed felt heavier than any sound. Ava couldn't breathe. The walls of Eleanor's study blurred until all she could see was the trembling hand clutching hers. Eleanor exhaled a single, fragile word. Victoria's daughter. Ava blinked. What? You're my granddaughter. Eleanor whispered, her composure shattering. You were never abandoned, Ava. You were stolen. The air fractured. Patrick Lewis staggered back, whispering, My God. Detective Scott's pen slipped from his fingers and clattered to the floor. Ava's knees gave out. She sank into a chair, shaking. 23 years of loneliness, of asking who she was, now answered by a single line of text. But the answer wasn't peace, it was a storm. Hours later, Eleanor's conference room. The truth had opened a wound that could not close quietly. Boxes of records filled the long mahogany table. Every document from Brightview Medical Center in 2002. Every payment. Every signature. Carolyn Davis sat at the far end, lawyer at her side. Her poise was still perfect, but her eyes flickered every time Eleanor looked at her. "We're missing one link," Detective Scott said. "The attending physician who signed the certificate, Dr. Gerald King. He falsified records once before. Lost his license in '05. He's alive. Jacksonville, Florida." Eleanor's voice was cold steel. "Find him." Patrick nodded. "Already on it. But there's more. Financials show Thomas Davis authorized 2 payments. One to Dr. Philip Adams, hospital administrator, for $250,000. Another, $500,000, to a shell company called Clearwater Medical Consulting. Registered agent. Simon Vetch, Carolyn's cousin." Carolyn stiffened. "That's absurd. You can't." Eleanor cut her off. "You will sit there and listen." Detective Scott's laptop glowed blue with evidence. Records show the administrator and Dr. King both received those funds in June 2002, 3 days after Victoria's death. Ava whispered, barely audible, "You're saying they were paid to make me disappear?" Eleanor nodded, voice breaking. "Yes. Someone in this family turned a tragedy into an opportunity." Carolyn slammed her palms on the table. "Enough of this witch hunt. Thomas is dead. You can't prove anything." "Then you won't mind if we talk to Linda Hill," Detective Scott said. She was the nurse in the delivery room. "She's agreed to a video call." Carolyn's eyes flicked, just once, the kind of flicker guilt never quite hides. Video call, Linda Hill, 71 years old. Her weathered face appeared on screen. When she saw Eleanor, tears filled her eyes. "Mrs. Harris, I prayed you'd never find out." "Find out what?" Eleanor asked, voice trembling but firm. Linda exhaled slowly. "The baby didn't die. She was perfect, crying, healthy. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. But Dr. King told us to document stillbirth, said it was a family request." "Family request," Eleanor repeated, stunned. "That's what he said. I tried to object. He told me to leave it alone." Detective Scott leaned in. "What happened next?" Linda's voice cracked. 3 days later, I saw him in the parking garage, level B. He was arguing with a woman, tall, dark hair, red designer coat. He handed her something wrapped in a hospital blanket. Ava's skin went cold. "Did you see her face?" "Not clearly, but I saw her car, a silver Mercedes. The plate started with WHI. Patrick froze. "That's the Harris family registration. Thomas's old car." The room went silent. Carolyn's knuckles whitened. "Why didn't you report it?" Dr. Anderson asked. Linda's voice fell to a whisper. "I tried. Went to Dr. Adams, the administrator. He told me I was mistaken, threatened me when I persisted. Then letters started coming. No return address. Pictures of my daughter's school. I was terrified." Eleanor's eyes shimmered, but her voice was pure ice. "You were right to be afraid." They silenced everyone. Linda sobbed. "I'm sorry. I should have said something." "You just did," Eleanor replied softly. The call ended. The screen went black, but the room stayed haunted. That night, in the quiet of her guest house, Ava stared at her reflection in the mirror, at eyes she suddenly realized matched the woman in Eleanor's portrait. Her phone buzzed. Tessa Taylor's name. "You okay?" The message read. "Saw the news. This is insane." Ava typed, then deleted, then typed again. "I don't know who I am anymore." She didn't send it. Another notification. "Unknown number. Stop asking questions. You survived once. Don't test your luck." Her heart stopped. She screenshotted it and sent it to Detective Scott. Outside, security lights glowed across the Harris estate. But Ava couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching from the shadows. Next morning, Eleanor's office. Detective Scott entered, face grim. "We traced the threats. A private security contractor named Keith Adams, hired through the Harris Industries Security Division." Patrick frowned. "Who authorized the payment?" Scott turned the laptop. On the screen glowed an approval code signed by Carolyn Davis. Eleanor's voice dropped to a whisper colder than winter. "Arrest her." Scott nodded. "We're working on it. But there's more. Dr. King is in Florida willing to talk. Eleanor stood. Then we go to Florida. Patrick hesitated. There's something else. Keith Adams, the man who attacked Ava, was found dead in his apartment this morning. Single gunshot. Suicide officially. The room froze. Ava whispered, "That's not suicide." Patrick's jaw clenched. "That's cleanup." Eleanor looked toward the window, where the city skyline gleamed like 1,000 tiny knives. "Then whoever's behind this is still out there," she said. "And they're getting desperate." Jacksonville, Florida, 3 days later. The humid air felt thick enough to drown in as Detective Raymond Scott, Patrick Lewis, and Eleanor Harris climbed the stairs of a decaying apartment complex. Paint peeled from the railings. Somewhere below, a dog barked in the dark. Unit 312. The door opened to reveal Dr. Gerald King, 67, pale, trembling, a man haunted by his own shadow. He didn't ask why they were there. He already knew. "I knew someone would come eventually," he murmured. Inside, the place reeked of dust and regret. He sat hunched on a stained couch, clutching a chipped mug of cold coffee. "They pay me $100,000, he said, voice brittle. "Cash. 3 drops. No names. Just a task. Falsify the stillbirth. Deliver the baby to a specific location." "Where?" Detective Scott asked quietly. "Maintenance closet near the loading dock. Level B. I was told someone would pick her up for a private adoption. No paperwork. No trail." Eleanor's voice cut like glass. "You believe that?" He gave a hollow laugh. "I wanted to. The money covered my debts. But when I saw the news 3 days later, abandoned baby at Brightview, I knew whoever was supposed to take her just left her there." Patrick leaned forward. "Who gave the orders?" Dr. King's eyes darted to the floor. "I never met her. Always calls. But one time she slipped, left a voicemail before hanging up. She said, 'Tell Adams it's done.' Then she called back to say forget the message." Detective Scott exchanged a glance with Patrick. "Could you describe her voice?" "Educated. Cold. Confident. Slight European accent. Faint, but there." Eleanor's blood turned to ice. She knew that cadence. She'd heard over dinners, fundraisers, and board meetings. "Carolyn Davis," Dr. King continued, pulling up his shirt to reveal a deep scar. 2 years ago, a man stabbed me in a parking lot. Said if I ever talked, next time would be fatal. I stopped running. Figured one day, this would find me anyway. The confession sealed it. The conspiracy had names now. Faces. New York City, Harris Estate, nightfall. Ava sat awake, the glow of her phone reflecting in her eyes. The media had found the story. Billionaire's lost granddaughter found alive after 23 years. Headlines everywhere. Cameras outside the gate. Strangers debating her life online. Her phone buzzed again. Father Michael Young, a priest from Mount Si Hospice. His voice over the line was fragile, rasping. "Detective Scott? I need to speak with Mrs. Harris. It's about Thomas Davis." Within an hour, the team was back in Eleanor's study. Father Young appeared via video call, oxygen tube beneath his nose. "Thomas came to confession in 2019, he began. He was dying. He gave me written permission to break the seal if the truth ever surfaced. He said he funded the cover-up, but he wasn't the one who planned it." "Who did?" Eleanor asked. The priest swallowed hard. "Someone Victoria trusted. Someone she called sister. Dr. Naomi Clark." The name sucked the air out of the room. Eleanor's hands trembled. "Naomi? Victoria's best friend?" Father Young nodded slowly. He said Naomi convinced him the baby would destroy their lives. She had contacts at the hospital. She arranged everything. The money, the threats, even the deaths. Detective Scott closed his laptop. "We'll pay her a visit." Next day, NYPD headquarters, 2 p.m. Dr. Naomi Clark arrived early. Designer suit, flawless posture, a face made of poise. Her lawyer, Douglas Allen, shadowed her like armor. She entered the conference room and froze for half a heartbeat when she saw Eleanor, still regal, still grieving. "Eleanor," she said softly. "It's been so long." "Not long enough," Eleanor replied. Detective Scott began the recording. "Dr. Clark, we're reopening the case of Victoria Harris's death and the disappearance of her child." "I thought the baby died," Naomi replied smoothly. "She's sitting right there," Scott said, gesturing to Ava. Naomi turned. Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes flickered. Recognition, fear, calculation. How wonderful, she said evenly. You must be thrilled, Eleanor. Scott leaned forward. We have testimony from Dr. King, from Nurse Hill, from Father Young, from Thomas Davis himself, all naming you as the architect of the cover-up. Naomi's lawyer interjected. Hearsay and conjecture. Scott hit play on an audio clip. The old voicemail echoed through the room. Tell Adams it's done. The accent, the tone, the control. Undeniable. Naomi stayed silent. Then Eleanor spoke. Why, Naomi? She loved you. She trusted you. Naomi's mask cracked. Just a hairline fracture at first. Victoria had everything, she said, voice low, dangerous. Money, admiration, you. While I scraped by in the shadow of her perfection. I lost everything. My marriage, my dignity. While she played saint with your fortune. Ava whispered. You killed my mother for money? Naomi's voice broke in a laughter, hollow, twisted. For survival. For justice. You call it murder. I call it balance. Eleanor's voice cut through her like ice. Balance doesn't bury a mother and abandon a child. Detective Scott stood. Dr. Naomi Clark, you are under arrest for conspiracy, kidnapping, and murder. Naomi snapped. She shoved her lawyer aside and screamed. Yes, I did it. She deserved it. They all did. Security rushed in. Handcuffs clicked. Naomi struggled, snarling. I made this family stronger. You should thank me. Eleanor turned away. Ava's tears fell silently as Naomi's voice echoed down the hall. That baby should have stayed lost. 3 days later, Manhattan Courthouse. The world watched. Headlines screamed. Dr. Naomi Clark faces life sentence in Harris family scandal. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, lawyers, and ghosts of the past. Naomi, stripped of glamour, sat in an orange jumpsuit, face hollow. Ava Johnson took the stand. Her voice didn't tremble. For 23 years, I believed I was unwanted. Today I know the truth. I was stolen. My life wasn't lost. It was taken. The judge's gavel fell. Dr. Naomi Clark, I sentence you to life in prison without parole. Eleanor's breath shook, then steadied. Justice had arrived, but it felt like ashes in her mouth. Outside, the cameras flashed as she spoke into a dozen microphones. My granddaughter was stolen 23 years ago by people I trusted. Today, truth prevailed. Justice may be slow, but it never stops moving. Ava stepped beside her. To every foster child who wonders if they matter, you do. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. 6 months later, Brightview Medical Center, neonatal unit. Ava adjusted an incubator tube with steady hands. She'd graduated nursing school, chosen to work in the same hospital that once tried to erase her existence. Eleanor visited often, tea in hand, the silver brooch gleaming on her lapel. Ava now wore a bracelet, a twin compass rose inscribed with both their names. You know, Ava said softly, I used to think I was lost, but now I see I was never lost, just stolen. Eleanor smiled, eyes shining. And now you're home. Ava Johnson was once a name in a file, but the truth turned her into a symbol of resilience, justice, and love that refuses to die. Some secrets bury themselves for decades, but the truth always finds its way home. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more thrilling, cinematic stories just like this one. Question for you. Would you forgive someone who stole decades of your life if their downfall gave you justice? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Because in stories like this, the past never stays buried and truth never stops knocking.